Hey guys, welcome to my Russian Moze build. I believe this build to make Moze one of the best characters again, and for this to be the best Moze build so far. You can use this gun at close, medium, or long range, whatever your preference is, and I'm going to demonstrate what this does against bossing and both mobbing. You can use the exact same skill tree that I have provided for both the bossing and the mobbing portions. Now I'm going to show you that I'm using neutral modifiers on Mayhem 4 for the takedown. I rate bonus radiation damage, which has no effect on me because I'm not using radiation damage. And the enemies are doing 40% more damage, which I need to watch out for. I'm using a boomsicle, which is going to be the main weapon. It has to be a shock boomsicle. The anointment does not matter. The other three weapons that I am using right now do not matter. Now I'm using the transformer with ASD bonus incendiary damage, which is going to give me all of my heals and my survivability. Now I'm using the It's Piss for debuffing bosses and enemies with ASD bonus corrosive, which is probably the most important part of this grenade. And I'm also using the Last Stand Deathless, which is going to give me invulnerability every 40 seconds for 5 seconds. And the Minesweeper, because you get a guaranteed chance of, when you hit crits with the boomsicle, that you will get the bonus grenade, and that just gives you bonus damage. Now for the blue skill tree. I'm putting 5 points into Fire in the Skagden. We're putting 3 points into Grizzled. We're putting 5 points into Toward Cross Promotion. 3 points into Means of Destruction. 3 points into Pull the Holy Pin. 1 point into Autover. 5 points into Explosive Punctuation. 1 point into Short Fuse. And for the red skill tree, we're putting 5 points into Armored Infantry. 3 points into Thin Red Line. 5 points into Drowning and Brass. 1 point into Experimental Munitions. 1 point into Full Can of Whip-Ass. 1 point into Behind the Iron Curtain. 3 points into Desperate Measures. And lastly, for the green skill tree, we're putting 5 points into Cloud of Lead. And finally, 1 point into Redistribution for our ammo regeneration. Now, I am using Guardian rank. This is because Moze doesn't require Guardian rank whatsoever, but it definitely helps with how low she is on the tier of characters. Now, this is the bonus skill trees that you can use for mobbing. I believe this build to be exceptional at mobbing. Now, when you're using this build, you want to use a Snowdrift Deathless. Now, the reason for this is because you want to mitigate that time in between kills. You want to get as many kills as quickly as possible to keep up your stacks of Phalanx Doctrine, which is going to increase your shields and your health significantly. Now I'm going to showcase this build against Wotan. Now during this fight, you want to kill all his supports first. Now the reasoning for this is because if you have 20 people shooting at you at one time, you will not have enough time to shoot yourself in the ground, and you will die. Now, when I break Wotan's shield, I will debuff him with my It's Piss, and both with Iron Bear, to make him take about 70% more damage, and then I get the 100% damage from the ASD, from the boomsicle, which is going to give me significant amounts of damage. Now, a tip I have for you guys is to leave the storm chuckers alive. Now, because you're using the transformer, they're going to help you regenerate your shields, keeping you alive for longer. They are no harm whatsoever. The only way that they will damage you is if they actually melee you, so don't get in their face. Now, another tip I have for you guys is this weapon is called the Boom Sickle for a reason. It shoots in the shape of a sickle. Now, that means you want to shoot slightly left to what you're trying to hit. The exact point you're trying to hit, so if you're trying to hit a critical, you want to aim slightly left of that critical. This is because the blade of the sickle is actually on the right side of the bullet pattern, and that's where most of the bullets are grouped up at. You'll only miss 2 to 3 bullets if you do this, but if you don't and you center the target, you will only hit about 2 to 3. Now, at the beginning of this video, I showed you a clip against Trant. That clip, I was actually using an elemental projector Deathless. This gives you 270% increased damage against bosses, or mobs if you're brave enough, because you have very little survivability when you're doing this. What happens is you get in and out of your Iron Bear, and that procs all of your elemental ASCs. And all you have to do is shoot the ground, and you apply your elemental ASCs to yourself. And what this does is it gives you 90% increased damage with each of those elements, giving you 270% increased damage because you inflict yourself with shock and whatever 2 elements you have on your weapon. When I'm using this build, I use the Last Stand Deathless just because there's this weird mechanic. So every 40 seconds, if you get damaged, you're going to get the invulnerability for 5 seconds. The reasoning for this is because you have 1 health, which is below that threshold that you need to meet for the Deathless. So every time that cooldown is down and you get damaged, you're going to get the immune, which is going to help you a lot. That's why I used it during the takedown, because I need to be a little tankier just to deal with all of Moton's warders. Now that is the only reason this takedown takes so long, so if you had more mobbing capabilities with this build, this would be going by way faster, even though, just because Wotan has so many mobs. Now, I kill him pretty quickly once he gets into his last phase, just because I can hit all 10 bullets into his critical spot, and proc the Minesweeper and my ammo regeneration. I get in and out of my Iron Bear, I debuff him 70%, and then I start chucking away at his critical. And he will melt. So this is the stage that once you get him to the stage, you know you've won. As long as you pay attention to your health, and you make for sure that you are not dying. So I pop into my Iron Bear. Once you pop into your Iron Bear, you have about 5 seconds of invulnerability just because of the animation. You can use this to avoid damage from attacks and anything else that you want to do that will prevent you from taking damage. So there's plenty of ways to escape damage with this build, so it has a lot of survivability, especially for Moze. Taking down Wotan's head is probably one of the easiest parts of this raid, just because you have a lot of bullet velocity with this weapon, meaning that you can track him very slightly ahead of him and hit all of 10 of your shots. Now, scoping in with this weapon, the reason I said you can use this weapon at all ranges, not extremely long ranges because it is a shotgun, however, but because when you zoom in, or you aim in with ADS, it grips your bullets very tightly and puts them in an actual sickle pattern and not more of a random sickle pattern. This causes you to be able to hit more rounds. As you can see, I'm hip firing here just because I needed that movement speed to get away from those enemies. Even though one of them was a Storm Striker heavyweight, the other one is a Striker, and those shoot mortars at you that will do a lot of damage. I just wanted to get the raid over with at this point, so I decided to ignore it. Now I'm going to showcase the elemental projector against Troy. So you saw I just exited Iron Bear, now I'm entering it again, and now I'm debuffing Troy. I'm going to chuck a grenade at him, and then that grenade applied all my ASE effects to me, and now I get to chunk away at Troy. As you can see the difference between me having my ASE and not having my ASE, and the damage to his face is incredible. And now I use my Iron Bear to avoid all these meteors. And now I shoot myself on the ground to get my ASCs back, and bye-bye Troy. Now I'm trying this on Grave Ward. I decided to do this on Grave Ward just because he has the most health in the base game. And as you can see there, we were chunking his health when we were able to hit his critical. I am using Shock on Flesh, so that's another thing to take account for. You can use a different elemental boomsicle, but you will not be able to heal from it, unless you put ASC Shock on your weapons. But I cannot guarantee that won't kill you. I haven't done enough testing with that yet. Now I'm showcasing you the mobbing portion of this build, showing how dominant this is in mobbing situations. Now when you are fighting heavies, whatever element that heavies they are immune to, so you have to have multiple elements on your weapon if you want to deal with all the heavies. Shock heavies are going to be the most difficult to take care of because you have to enter and exit out of your Iron Bear just to damage them. So if you want to do the raid, you will need the ASE anointments, but those are easy to find. It can be on any grenade, it doesn't have to be on any specific grenade. Or any... Actually, the shield does have to be very specific, just because you want to shield yourself. But if you're using another element, I would recommend using a stopgap or something along those lines. But if you use a stopgap, do not use the Deathless with the stopgap, because it does not work. You will get the shield while you are downed. So, one glitch I want to talk about is with the Tankman shield. I would be doing another build very soon if the Tankman shield would have a way to identify whether it got the recent hotfix or not. So, there's this bug to where mid-game, your guns that got buffed in the latest hotfixes are able to lose their buffs. Now, the Tankman shield's buffs are not visible to the eye, only by testing your damage can you see them. So, when you're doing the takedown and you don't have your buff, there's no way to tell if you're getting the damage unless you kill about 20 enemies, and then you realize that you're only doing 36,000 damage a headshot. So, until they fix that, I'm not going to make a Tankman shield build, but until then, you guys just sit patiently, and I will have another Tankman build out for you. The main reason I play Moze is because she's the worst character in the game, so I want to try to challenge myself for one, to make good builds, and to increase my skill level. But not only that, because bragging rights, why would you not? You know? If you can make a good build on Moze, you can make a good build on any character. I'm hoping that in the DLC they put some good class mods for Moze, or even add new skill trees to characters, just so that I can create new builds with the characters, and so that Moze gets better, because I really enjoy playing as Moze. Even though her Iron Bear takes a little bit to get in and out of, it's a little price to pay for how much fun you can have with this character. Just explosions going on everywhere. It's so fun. But one thing I don't understand is how Amara gets the damage reduction splash damage skill and the splash damage increase skill. She's the elemental character, and the splash damage character needs those skills the most, and they decide to give it to the elemental character. That just makes no sense to me. Gearbox, if you're seeing this, please fix that. Give Moze some actual splash damage increase skills. So barrel stuffing is the most common technique I use when mobbing, because you get those Minesweeper grenades so frequently, and because you're constantly healing yourself, and because you will get the invincibility from your class mod, your relic. Because self-damage also activates the relic. Now, for the hack hounds are your biggest enemy. Because they do shock damage, but it goes through your shield, so you're still getting double damage against your shield, even though you should be healing from it. That also makes no sense to me, but we just have to bear with it. So what you want to do to deal with them, you want to get as close to the hack hound as possible, and you want to barrel stuff them. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be healing yourself, while doing a ton of damage to them, and if you hit crits, good for you. You're gonna do it. You're gonna melt them. Another way to avoid taking damage from them is hopping in your Iron Bear and just shooting at them with their weapon until they stop. So what that's gonna do is it's gonna debuff them, and then when you hop out of your Iron Bear, they're gonna be debuffed for you to do a ton of damage to them, along with all your ASE elements, so you're just gonna one-shot them. If we were using the mobbing build right now, we would be one-shotting these mobs if we killed enough of them, because Phalanx Doctrine is probably Moze's best skill in my opinion. The reason we're not using it right now is because this build needs to be as versatile as possible, being able to take care of bossing and mobbing at the same time, which is exactly what we have accomplished here. Yeah, right here I'm having a little trouble tracking these enemies. The wolves decide to go back and forth, jumping all over the place, and it's kind of hard to keep track of them. So you just have to practice at that. But once you get good at it, you should be proud because it is difficult, but also because they're probably the hardest enemy in the game to hit. So when you're using the mobbing build, if you ever decide to do the takedown, you need the Snowdrift Deathless, just because it's going to give you not only that distance closure so that you can keep killing enemies, but also the ability to avoid the mortars from the Kraken and Wotan. Now, this build is capable of doing the takedown on true takedown mode. However, it's much more difficult just because it's going to take quite a while, and Wotan will one-shot you in true takedown mode. And that makes this extremely difficult because you don't get your immunity then. But that goes for any build. The only way to avoid it is to have movement speed, and that is with the Snowdrift Deathless.
Stay down, scrub.
Now, as you can see here, this is pretty easy. It's not hard to take care of all these enemies. You constantly get your health regeneration, you constantly are dealing insane amounts of damage, and you almost always have your ammo in your magazine, so you never have to reload. So if you're not looking for a super complicated build that creates frustration when you're not playing it right, such as a lot of Zane's complicated builds, then this is a build for you. As you can see here, this hound is resisting all of my shots, which is why Ironbear is very useful in this situation, because he just smacks the hound. Now, I wanted to talk about two things before we close the video. One is, I need a name for my community. I need a name for you guys. Now, that is completely up to you guys. I have a couple ideas, such as Tony's Heads, because I am ToeKneeHeadless. Or if you guys have any other ideas, post them down in the comment section below, and if you see an idea that you agree with or that you like, put it down as a like on that comment, and I will look at all the comments, and we will come to terms with a name for the community. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was, if we can get 50 likes on this video, I will do a true takedown mode and do that challenge with this build and post it to YouTube. So, if you guys would like to see anything else from this YouTube channel, just put it down in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you guys. And this channel is going to be mainly FPS and strategy guides, because I love teaching people how to play games correctly and strategies. So that's what you're mainly going to be seeing from me. If you guys have any playthroughs you would like to see, if you guys have any games that you would like to have me play and showcase on this channel, then please, just let me know. I will read most of my comments and keep up with you guys. So, I hope you enjoy the rest of the video, and have a good rest of your day. Thank you for watching.